Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now today's story starts in 1972 with the birth of the iconic Renault 5, a city car for everyday use. But a little known fact, Renault actually invented the turbocharger many years ago in 1902. And for many of us, the first road car application of that in the Renault world was the Renault 5 GT Turbo. In fact, if you watched the channel last week, I got to drive a Phase 1 Gen 2 Renault 5 GT Turbo. But this car evolved quite a lot as well, and today we're here in Paris to see the latest iteration of the crazy Renault 5, the Renault 5 Turbo 3E. So in 1980, Renault bought this car to a motor show, a concept car that would become the Turbo 1. Unlike the GT Turbo we've seen outside, in this car, the engine is mid-mounted and it's rear-wheel drive. And although this was a concept, the powers that be in Renault decided that this was actually going to go into production. And what they came up with was this, the Turbo 1. So in the back of this is a 1.4 litre turbocharged engine with 160 horsepower. And the Turbo 1, they only made 400 units. It was made to homologate the car for Group A racing. And then the Turbo 1 was replaced by the Turbo 2, which was made with slightly more attainable materials. It was more mass market car, a cheaper car, but still in this bonkers layout. And the reason I'm here in Paris today is because now we have the Turbo 3E. E standing for electric. But I think we should start with the concept car of the 3E, which is through that set of doors just there. Actually, before we look at the concept, in here are some of the most iconic Rally 1 and Rally 2 race cars, driven by the legend that is Jean Ragnotti. If you've ever been to Festival of Speed, you may well have seen him driving this or this up the hill at Festival of Speed. He does this incredible 360-degree flick. But in here, I mean, for me, Group B rallying was where it was at, and this Group B rally car just is so cool. But it's the livery that I wanted to kind of point out. This livery becomes very important when we see some of the customization options that you can have in the 3E. Over here again, I think the difference between these are both Group B cars, but this is now a significant uplift in horsepower, something like 350 horsepower, still rear wheel drive. It's just a very cool bit of kit. So if you take the Rally 1 and Rally 2 and you take the historic racing here, what we're about to see is a true homage to these cars, and it's really very special. So remember that concept car I told you about? There it is. Look at this thing. Now, if you came to Festival of Speed in 2023, you will have seen this car going up the hill. So we've all seen by now, I'm sure, the Renault R5, their new electric hatch. So this is kind of taking that to a completely different level. It's a crazy, crazy thing, this gigantic rear wing, huge wheels and tires. And there's even a teddy bear in there because it was so horribly quick up the hill that they put a teddy bear in there just so that you could hang on to it if you were getting frightened because the driver was going a little bit quick. But this thing is absolutely bonkers and absolutely crazy. And it was really a demonstration of what Renault could do with the R5, turning it into something completely crazy. And then someone decided to actually put it into production. And the thing I love about what Renault are doing, when they did the concept of the R5, that came out and everyone went, they'll never make that. And if they do, it will never look anything like the concept car. And then we saw the actual road-going R5 and it's almost identical. So you take this, which the guys here call the drifter because it's pretty good at going sideways, and you say, let's put this into production. Well, that's exactly what they're going to do. And the car is just over there. Follow me. Look at this. So this, at the moment, is still a pre-production mock-up. It doesn't have an interior, but this is the Renault 5 Turbo 3E. That latest generation of Turbo 1 and Turbo 2 cars. And if we take a walk round, you can see huge amounts of R5 in there. In fact, there are some bits, not many, carried over from the Renault 5, but you can also see how close it is to the drift car that we've just had a look at. But it's going to be completely road legal. It's very track focused, but it is going to be a road legal car. If we take a look around, the only bits that you'll find on this car that bear any resemblance to a Renault R5 are the door mirrors. This concept doesn't actually have door handles, but the door handles would be straight off of the R5. The lights, and yeah, that's about it. So this car has been developed jointly by the experts at Renault and Alpine, and there's so many things I want to talk about. First things first, in terms of dimensions, a standard R5 is 1.7 meters wide. This is 2 meters wide and 4 meters long. It's got such an aggressive stance. Underneath, it's based on an aluminium chassis that mounts the battery, and I'll come on to the motors very shortly. And then the actual body panels and the superstructure above the aluminium chassis are all made of carbon fiber. The target weight for this car is about 1,450 kilos, although they're actually trying to get it below 1,400 kilos. And the performance is astonishing. Let's talk numbers. So this is an all-electric platform. It has a 70 kilowatt hour battery on the floor, but everything about this car is one, about reducing weight as much as possible, but also about reducing the center of gravity. And one of the decisions that's been made about this car, specifically about center of gravity, is to not have the traditional motor setup, either a rear-mounted motor or a front-mounted motor. In this car, the motors are actually inside the wheels themselves. And I find that fascinating because normally hub motors like this, they have huge issues with cooling, but they're cooled by water, but it's the power output. Each of these motors, there's one on each rear wheel, so it's just rear wheel drive, produce 200 kilowatts. So the combined horsepower figure for this car is about 540 horsepower, but it's the torque figure that is simply unbelievable. Each one of these motors produces 2,400 Newton meters of torque, so a combined 4,800 Newton meters of torque. That will propel this car from 0 to 62 in 3.5 seconds. Bonkers quick. And they can also do some really clever things around torque vectoring. And we've had some briefings today from the guys behind the design of this car, and it's just so different to anything else out there on the marketplace. But really, really interesting. The fact that the motor's actually within the wheel itself just helps drop that center of gravity, with the battery being on the floor and then everything above the aluminium chassis being carbon fiber. All of that's around handling, but it also pays perfect homage to the Rally 1 and Rally 2 that had a mid-mounted rear wheel drive configuration. Now we've got hub-mounted rear wheel drive in the Turbo 3E. So at 1,450 kilos, if you do the maths, this car has about 372 horsepower per ton. So that's significant amounts of performance. In fact, Renault are calling this a supercar rival or equivalent. But if you're going to be driving this at pace, then you're going to consume battery quite quickly. So you need to be able to charge it up really quickly. And the electrics in this car are based on an 800 volt architecture. And it will support up to 350 kilowatts DC charging. That means you can get from a 10 to 80% charge in just 15 minutes. So the idea is you go out, you do a big quick track session, waste the battery, probably waste a set of rear tyres as well, come in, plug it in for 20 minutes, then you're ready to go off again. You've just got to be able to find a 350 kilowatt charger at a motor circuit, but that's just a small, minor issue. But then as you just walk around, every time I look at the car, you just see the front end, these lights, you've got this kind of nod to the R5. It's pretty much ready to go. This here, if you look at the drift car, there's a big amount of cooling in here, but they've carried that over as well. And then interior-wise, now I can't show you the interior in this car because it's just a mock-up, but let's have a chat about the interior. So the interior is a cross between a race car and a road car. First up, if you look at the dash displays, they are straight out of the R5, although they have changed the user interface. The seats have two options. You've got these incredible carbon-backed sport seats, or they will do a gentleman driver version with a little bit more padding if you want to use this car on the road as your daily. The steering wheel is straight from the Alpine A290. There are 4 regen levels, and you've got the regen button on the steering wheel. There's the overtake mode, which gives you all the power and all the torque. It also has a rally-inspired hydraulic handbrake for extra drifting. And then drive mode wise, you have 4 drive modes: snow, normal, sport and race. And in race mode it has a drift assist function to help you get maximum angles and look as cool as possible. So the next question is, how do I get one? Well, they're only making 1,980 of these, and that's in reference to 1980 when the Turbo 1 came out. And there's a huge amount of customization options. This livery here is inspired by the Tour de Course livery, the cars we saw out in the motorsport section that were driven by Jan Ragnotti. But you can choose pretty much anything you like. The options are wide, from external livery to internal. The big question is price. How much is this going to be? Well, the guys here have been quite tight-lipped, but if I were to take an educated guess, I think these are going to start somewhere between maybe 120 to 140,000 pounds. But I reckon if you start going customization, because the guys have said they'll literally do anything you like, they will customize in any way you want. In fact, we were actually told you could have pink on the outside and your grandma's curtains as the seat coverings. If you start doing that, I think you're going to hit the door of 200k before you even know it. But I guess for this car, it's a plaything, a toy, a very special toy, and they've already got many, many inquiries, and you can actually start to register your interest this spring, and deliveries will start in 2027. This is going to be a road car. This thing, look at it. It's awesome, absolutely awesome. What I love about Renault is they make a concept car, and then the board or someone on the board is brave enough to go, do you know what? I think we should make that. Let's do it. And I applaud them for that. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Renault 5 Turbo 3E. I think it's pretty cool. Will I be putting my name down for one? I need to put some lottery numbers in first and hope they come up. But as a piece of engineering, as something to make electric cars cool, this for me does it. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come, and I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.